It's Eric Meyer from InstructorSummit.com. I am here to help people learn data, something I super enjoy, and the correct foundational concepts of data using the Lat G, the Long G, and the speed trace. Gang, there is a ton of information that can be confirmed by just looking at these three channels. We're going to jump into that and talk about the value of really strong learning of the foundations. Okay, we're going to use TrackAttack software. TrackAttack is wonderful. It's available for Mac or PC. It's free, and you can start using it for free, but I want to encourage you to set aside $100 for the annual membership account that gives you the ability to share a lot of data, store a lot of data, and there's a lot of features and benefits, but there is more speed to be had for $100 in analyzing your data than you could possibly imagine. You don't need this, but this is an additional tool, and $100 is 1/20th of the cost of a track day, tires, wear and tear on your engine, hotel, beer money, admission fee. So we're going to use TrackAttack, and it is a fantastic software. And if you're new to it, I'm just going to kind of go down right here. I've already started doing some things here, and we're going to get rolling. I'm going to talk a little bit more. Now, if your screen doesn't look like this, and it may look something like this, and it may look something like this, we'll talk about the features and whatnot, but for what we're doing here, I'm going to slowly walk down a couple of things. Gang, these are the three that you need. This is the foundation of learning. Talk to any data analyst, talk to any data pro, and they will echo the need for understanding these three as the first thing that you do. So we're going to talk about that. Lateral, GPS-based, GPS-generated, long, GPS-generated, and speed. So as we do that, we're going to get something that looks like this. I'm going to pretend that it's your first time to data. So I'm going to go nice and slow and easy. These are the building blocks. Talk a little bit about the software. As you can see right here, this is a highlighted lap. That means it's the fastest lap. You can see that out of all those laps. This is another section, the same thing. And in this case, I'm going to encourage you to compare your best two laps using longitudinal acceleration, lateral, and GPS speed. Those and those only. Okay, a bit about what's going on here. I want you to know that a couple things. There is zero, meaning zero value. You can see this way is positive value. These are positive values up here. And this is negative values right here. And that's pretty much standard across the board. What we see here is distance in feet, with the distance between here and here being 1 lap. Okay? We're also seeing that that depending on what channel this is, and there are 3 channels represented right here, right? This y-axis has corresponding values. So all those are mile per hour, and all these are G's, and all these are G's. This is pretty standard in AIM Race Studio, in ApexPro, in Motec, in Harry's Lap Timer. This is how almost all of these are laid out. And when I say all of these are laid out, that's distance on the bottom. In other words, this is 8,000 feet. These values are what happened at 8,000 feet. And these values, 8,000 feet. These values, 8,000 feet. Making sense so far? Okay, let's keep going. So here we are, a bunch of squiggly lines. They typically call these squiggly lines. This is the foundation of what you want to know. You want to get used to seeing this. So what we have here in our software, you can see as I move this cursor right here along the speed, again, along this speed trace right here, you get a couple of things. If you're new to Road Atlanta, it might be not as comfortable as looking at data in your own data or anybody's data from a track that you're familiar with. There's a lot of merit in lessons learned that you're going to find out in tracks that you're not familiar with because of their unique nuances. And in this particular case, the unique nuances of this track are a big back straight. I'm going to turn this thing off right here. The unique nuances are this big long back straight with a big monster braking zone because you're going really fast. This cambered corner, which is really fast, and this big uphill turn one. And you could also say that the S's right here are unique lesson opportunity. Just like your local track of Summit Point or Laguna Seca or Roebling Road or Gingerman or Lime Rock or Mid-Ohio, every track has a unique lesson opportunity. So let's get started here. I'm going to reiterate some things right here, and that's this. You can see that of these G's for this channel, for this longitudinal channel, there's the 0 with up here above the line being positive and below the line right here being negative. That's the same for this guy, positive, negative. This doesn't have a positive and negative. This is all mile per hour, right? So 120 mile per hour is kind of like right across here, right? Making sense? Okay, we'll keep going. Reinforce these main channels, longitudinal and lateral. When you see these two, I want you to think of this. This is feet, as in, what am I doing with my feet? And this is hands. What am I doing with my hands? Okay, let's talk about that. Below this 0 line is a decelerating event. In a lot of cases, a braking event, especially when it's very steep. It's a braking event when it's very steep. Above this is, above the 0 line, is an accelerating event, which could be a combination of going down the hill, could be a combination of going flat on the gas, could be a combination of slowly accelerating, coming out of a shorter corner. For the most part, all of these guys up here are accelerating events. And this is when it's really clear and they're above the line. This is a positive G, okay? Positive longitudinal G that's related to your feet. What are you doing with your feet? So we're really talking about gas pedal. Let's do that again. Here's our 0. Here's our positive. Here's our negative. You can see that right here. All these are negative, right? All these guys right here are negative. All right, here's our 0 line. And anything above here, it's said to be, there's an accelerating force with your foot and in this case, the gas pedal, your throttle foot. Okay? Bottom of this, braking, right? Negative G with your foot. Let's keep going. This is a really, 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 really important channel to learn. I want you to see some things here. I want you to see that these bigger values, right? These 1.2 in this case, right? And even more than that, what looks like 1.3 or 1.4 possibly. I say that because it's over here, are much greater than the ones up here that are 0.4-ish, right? And what this says is that the ability to brake in the car is much more powerful and accel or decel than the acceleration. Excuse me, let me say that again. The ability to brake the car for the car's braking effort is much more powerful in G's than the car's ability to accelerate. Now this is a pretty big car. This is a Z06 Corvette with some aero and a big motor. And it's a lightweight race car, and it's also got some big tires on it, and that will explain why there's some big acceleration values right here. And we'll get into that in a second. But what we're doing is just kind of looking at and understanding lat and long G and speed trace. These are really, really important. By the way, speed trace is also called the money channel because it's a product of what you're doing with your hands steering and your feet braking gas. And those sort of equals feet plus hands equals the result. And this is what you want. The higher the average, the lower the lap time, the faster you're going. So these two things right here have everything to do with getting the capability out of the car. Hope you're not confused so far. Let's keep going. We've highlighted in this case for TrackAttack, and we're using just random laps to tell a story. This isn't, hey, let's go find the best lap. Let's go find the best lap time. That is a really hard approach to start with when you first look at data. The best thing you can do is understand what the heck you're looking at. So you can see here, we just happened to pick two of the faster laps for these morning sessions, I believe they were. I'm going to jump into it a little more. That's a braking event. In this particular braking event, if you're familiar with Road Atlanta, you're going to see that this is a big long straight. Here's our two icons. This would be a braking zone. The track's going this way. It's a sharp corner, so it's braking. You can see that right here. You can see that right here in speed, and then we can see it right here, right? The speed is falling down. We are braking, and we're going to brake from, what looks like 130 some odd miles an hour down to 45 miles an hour-ish, right? Braking. That braking, you follow this line up in the braking zone, corresponds to this right here, right? This entire event is braking. So what you should be able to conclude right now, or what you should be able to see, especially if you've seen this a few times, but this is for new folks. This foundation is really, really, really important, is when there's values underneath the line. In this case, it's negative. You can see the negative right here. That's a braking event with your feet. So this is almost like a brake sensor because you know you're braking. Okay, making sense? And in this case, there's two different values. On one lap, our peak braking is negative 1.35 Gs, which you should be seeing in a Z06 Corvette with aero, a lightweight car with big tires and you should be seeing this value. And here's a lesser value, this one right here, this 1.19, I'm going to call it 1.2. We're getting more out of the tire and the brakes. We're getting more out of the capability of the car. We're braking harder. We're using the brakes. This is faster. This is more efficient. And you can see that in the purple right here, that steeper purple. We're talking about slope. See these two right here? Let me show you what I see. Here's the, I'm going to change some colors here. Here's the, and I'm going to exaggerate this right here. Here is an exaggerated green slope of this brake line. Remember, longitudinal, this is our feet. And then here's an exaggerated, see if I can find a purple one here. Here's exaggerated slope of the purple line. And again, I'm exaggerating, that's that same purple. Here's what my point is. These two right here, that slope is important to see. The slope is important to see. What that says is that from, I want to show you something here. We're going to talk about the slope of these. And when you look at lat and long G, you need to look at slope. So I'm going to do this, my terrible writing, right? This is a message in slope. You need to look at slopes. If you remember from any of your high school effort, I'm going to open this thing up and see the same event. Right? I'm just going to open this up a little bit, sort of magnify it. I'm doing that with the up and down keys on a Mac. I'm going to place my cursor right here. Place my cursor right here. So what we have here is the GPS speed where it starts to fall over, right? This would indicate braking, right? Indicate braking in here with this part on the track. Flying down this way. This is going to be the braking zone right here, somewhere in here. This big red line that I'm doodling right now. It's going to brake all the way down here to the slowest speed, which is about in here, right? And it relates to over here, right? Around 50 miles an hour-ish. We're going to talk about these slopes. And the slope related to the feet, in this case, the braking zone after the long straight, where we're braking from here, from this point here, down to this point here. And we're going to look at this longitudinal G. Slope, negative G, feet, brake zone right here, right? Decrease in speed right here. Making sense? Good. Now we're going to show you this slope story. I'm going to exaggerate this green lap, which is right here. And I'm going to exaggerate this purple lap, which is right here. So here's the purple slope. And here's the green slope. This is the same thing down here. Okay? Here's what I want to show you. This slope, see how this purple is so much more steep? This green one sort of kind of looks like that angle. And the purple one looks more steep, right? It's got more of this straight up and down. Well, you can see that down here as well, right? This green kind of falls over like this. So here's how to interpret this. Here's what you need to know about this. We're going to move this out of the way here. The distance from here, just kind of, let me try that again. The distance right here and the slope from here to here. Right, so these are spots on the track. Right, it's here and here. See how the purple got more done and got to longitudinal higher values earlier. And when I say earlier, it's in distance. So if we say, who got to a higher longitudinal braking force, right, being thrown forward in the car at the 10,800 foot mark, it's the purple one, right? Which means we got there sooner. We also see that the purple got to a much higher maximum right here, a maximum negative longitudinal braking G's, which is your feet, right, in the brake zone. We were more efficient. This is a greater slope for braking is more efficient. So you could say that this green was a little more lazy, if you will. So I want you to see that slope. There's a little story in the longitudinal data, okay, the longitudinal trace. We're not going to say if that's good or bad right now. I just want you to see that. Okay? We can also see that right here. See how this purple is steeper? See this little guy right here? This is probably right here a heel toe shift, a downshift. Just like this right here on the same spot of the track, going almost the same mile an hour, is a decrease in speed, and it's a shift. And how do I know that? I'm going to go all the way up here, and I'm going to see that there's positive G's, and all of a sudden it goes down to about no acceleration, and then it goes back up. Doesn't that make sense? That's what happens when you do a shift. You go from accelerating, kind of jerks you a little bit back to here, and then you go back to accelerating. So you can see these things within there, within the speed trace, and you can confirm it with the long trace. You can also do it the other way around. You can confirm it or you can see it in a long trace, and you confirm it in a speed trace. Let's see if we can find another one. Well, what we know right here is that this car at about 100 miles an hour needs to shift. And if we sort of draw this along here, we can go, that's probably what this is right here, right? Just like it is right here. I'm going to kind of go along those lines. I wouldn't be surprised, it kind of looks like there's one over here, which makes sense because here's our speed, and we go back up, and it's somewhere along here we're going to have to shift. So what you can conclude here, even without more fancy sensors, is that's where you shift. So if you're trying things before and after, trying to use different gears in a corner, that will help you see that. I'm going to reinforce this message again. There's our momentary lack of forward acceleration that is echoed or supported by this. We saw another one down here, right? Take a look at that. Same story, all right? It would make sense. Here's all this acceleration, and all of a sudden it goes down. That's what this shape looks like. That's what that shape looks like, okay? There's another shape I want you to see here, and it's very unique and very popular. You might see it in your data, and that's this. So we know this cursor right here is the same cursor that's on here, and it's going 130, and it's been accelerating, and it's going down the back straight, right? Headed that direction. I want you to see this right here. See how this speed kind of starts to not only not increase, it's actually decreasing. And that decreasing is represented in under here. Everybody see that? So we go from positive acceleration and a shift and rocking and accelerating, hauling butt down the track, wah, wah, wah. And you get to this right here. Well, what the heck is that? This is a decel event with your feet. A negative right here, a negative. It's under this line right here. And it's about that kind of value. I'm betting big time that is a lift of the throttle. This particular driver, for whatever reason, maybe it's traffic, maybe they're, hey, you know, my tires are not warmed up yet, or it's a cold day, or maybe it's wet or something, and I'm going into a brake zone. I'm just going to lift right here. I want you to see that. So instead of having a throttle position sensor or a typically called a TPS, what we can conclude from right here, because of these two things in your data or this data, is that there's a lack of acceleration on a straight, and that's a lift. Do you see the two? I want you to be able to read into this foundational longitudinal G to see that right there. Underneath there that looks like that, and right here as well, remember that's a shift. This is a brake, right? And a more efficient brake and a greater brake. This will be a lift. And this is why I chose this. This is why I chose this particular two outings, because I remember that this had the lift story in here. And the lift story is this. How it comes up, and instead of continuing like this and then braking, it did this. It came up and it kind of flattened out. You might see more of this in a Miata that has a higher, it doesn't have a lot of horsepower to push against the wind, and it won't go 130 on the back straight at Mid-Ohio unless you're cheating. But I want you to see that, okay? So we're sticking with long G. There's a higher long G. There's a much higher long G with the feet. And that's represented in this stronger slope, right? Not saying this is good or bad, but what we're saying is that right here at this point on the track, which looks like 2,000, this is 2,500 foot mark. There's a earlier braking event. There's more of longitudinal G's as related to the feet, and the car slows down more. I'm going to make sure that you see that. Isn't it amazing how we're spending all this time on long G? Guys, you got to know this and not just skip over it. Seeing things inside of here is the key. One of those is the slope, right? We talked about the slope difference in these two as it relates to here, right? We learned about underneath this line being a lift, okay? We learned about, hey, this is a shift, as is over here, looks like. And that's related into here. You need to be able to see this in your own data, right? You need to look into it and go, what the heck does all this stuff mean, right? What does all this stuff mean right here? And that's what we're doing right now. We're being able to take a value and go, well, what does that mean? So we're gonna now we're gonna jump over to lateral. By the way, this is my favorite to look at. This is usually the #1 place that people new to data will get track time reduction, track time gains. And it's often in the break zone. And we'll talk about that in a future event. But now we're going to get into lateral. So as we remember up here, if this is the feet, this is the hands. So this is steering. And let's take a look at what that looks like. So we're going to go all the way down to right here. We're going to look at turn 6, which is a turn. Fair? And when we look at turn 6, we're going to put our cursor all the way down there, right in the middle of that turn. Looks something like that. Come on, baby. I'm playing with the software here. And we're going to see that this value in here, just like up here for braking, this value is when you're getting thrown to your shoulder is pushing on the side of your seat. And in this case, because it's a right-hand turn, right? Your shoulder's pushing to the left side of your car, almost on the door, if you would. And we're doing that at about down here, 1.3 G's, lateral G's, 1.3 negative. You don't really need to know if it's negative or positive, if you ask me. You just need to know that there's a big old value right there. And I want you to see something across the board here. And we'll recap lat, long, speed at the very end of this video. It's really important you get the foundations. I just want you to see a couple things. Here's a 1.3 value. Here's a 1.3 value. Here's a what looks like a 1.1 or maybe a 1.2 value is in here. Just showing you the magnitude of these. It's not right or wrong, it's just what it is. That's all you need to know. From a positive standpoint, is in right here, which would be left-hand turns. There's 2 big ones, right? You can maybe include these. There's a couple things that I see here. If we look at all of these that are pretty big value, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, there's 5 there. There's 6. Let's say 7 that are 1 G or over. There's only 1, 2. This one's pretty low. 3. There's only big 3 that are over 1 G here. I'll show you that again. So 1 G is about in here, lateral with the hands, steering. And 1 G looks to be about here. And I want you to see this. I'm going to switch colors. There we got 1. There we got 2. There we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 right-hand turns and 1, 2, I'm going to count this, 3 left-hand turns. This is primarily a right-hand turning track, right? Pretty easy to see, isn't it? We spend more time in doing right-hand turns. You can see that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? There's a whole bunch of dudes down in here that end up doing 6 and 7. Let's clear that. And conversely, here's a left right here and a left right here. You see that? You could say that there's a left in here as well, and it's kind of a left in here, not really. That's a smaller than a 1 G, right? Big slow corner, tight corner has more G's. Tighter corners have more G's, right? And let's look at that. So here's a tight corner and here's a tight corner. Our cursor's already right there. Cursor's right here. It is a 70-mile-an-hour corner, and look at this value. 1.3, 1.4 down there on the bottom. Slower corner, 76. This one's actually cambered, which makes it even that much faster. I'm going to go to what's the slowest corner on the track, which is right here. This is 10A. This is 10A and 10B. Right? It's pretty sharp. We're going to go right here. I'm going to take our cursor, and I'm either going to do a couple things. I can go right here to the speed where it's slow. Look what happens when I put that cursor right there at the slowest point of the track. Slowest point of the track right here. This is pretty slow too. We're going to go right here. Which is right here, that sharp one. See that right there? Pretty high value. Making sense? This one right here, some pretty high values, right? Making sense? This one's got an interesting spike to it, right? Just a little guy. This one's got more sustain. This one kind of looks like that. That's getting more out of the tire for a longer period of time. Just like this one is. We're in a higher range of these G values for a longer period. When I say longer, that's longer distance right here. Sorry for my squigglies. You know, all this long, 1,000 feet, 3 football fields, right? 1,000 feet, we're laying into stuff. So let's take a look at that. Clear these things out. So what the heck is going on here, right? That 1,000 feet right there, 1,000 feet. We're in the middle of all of this stuff right here. Look at that, turn one, big, longer, faster corner. There's the speed. All of that event right there corresponds to all this side load. Our shoulders pushing on the left side of the car for a long time, for several feet, right? What did we say, 1,000 feet, right? And now we're going to connect the two a little bit. So for that same effort right here on the track, we can see that there's a braking event with lateral G's in here, right? Pushing on the shoulder, little bit at first, right? Braking, we're coming off the brakes. We're neither accelerating nor braking or coming off the brakes. Now we're going to throttle, and we're going to a bunch of throttle right there, right? Which corresponds to the speed going up, which corresponds to the slower decline of the lateral G's. This is the string steering wheel to the pedals technique, right? So as these lateral G's start to be less, as they start to be less, look up here. We're trading that with, in this case, throttle. We could also say that as we come off the brakes right here, and when I say come off, starting to come off the brakes, this is headed up. We're decelerating at a lesser rate. We're still slowing down, but not much. This would be neither accelerating nor braking. We can see that we're trading a decrease in braking motion with an increase. See right there? This is that string technique. Let me do this. Let me show you this. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to zoom in on with the software. I'm going to move this over so everybody can see. I just zoomed in a little bit, What the heck's going on? Well, what we can see here is there's some kind of braking event because this is going down. There's some kind of braking event, right? This is going down, right? There's some neutral, there's some acceleration, right? We can all see that. And this corresponds with braking. Yep, we kind of knew that, right? Braking for the purple. Let's get rid of the, let's just do one of these to make it a little easier to see. I'm just going to unclick this one. Only just to have one. Okay, not saying that this is good or bad. I just want you to see this. So here we go. Somewhere around in here, we're coming off the throttle. Maybe even looks like a little coasting, right? Somewhere in here, it starts going down. So this could be synonymous with the braking event. It's actually right back here. There's a little bit of sort of drag on the brakes right in here. It's actually braking. You kind of see this almost all the way to in here, right? Because it starts going up from here. So you can see that the stuff underneath the line is braking, with the peak being right here. Really feeling that force of your shoulders on the belts being thrown forward, right? And you can see that in the form of the slope being kind of steep right here, right? Let's do that again. That event right here is where this bad boy is starting to get steep, right? Getting some really good braking, really efficient. And this is normal, right? Kind of start coming on the brakes and you get into the pedal and then you come off the pedal. Start on the brakes, you get into the pedal, come off the pedal, right? And that's represented in here. Start on the brakes, you get into the pedal, you come off to the pedal, you start not decelerating, right? It's kind of neutral out here, it's kind of flat. So back to that string technique thing, just like they told you in class, right? Classroom instructor only said it one time and you sort of passed it off, or maybe you're an instructor and you use that quite a bit. As we're coming off the brakes, we're going to look at lateral, we're going to look at the hands. We're going to look at these values from here just to here and say that the hands, this is steering, right? And we're literally trading some of this right here. So as we're coming off the brakes, we continue to put in steering that makes our left shoulder plant to the left side of the seat or the left door. Okay? There's sort of the string technique in action, right? It's a trade-off. I just want you to see the relationship. This is the same thing as we see up here as we come out of the steering right here. As we're coming out of the steering, and it corresponds with right straight up here where we're accelerating. So we're opening up the wheel and we're trading that for throttle, or we're trading steering for throttle. Either way, we can't maximize both, right? Because when we have this right here and we say, hey, I want a bunch of steering, look at that, right above it. Can't have both, right? Can't have both. You get to pick one or the other. Take that back. You don't have to pick one or the other. You can't have maximum of both. You see that? Okay. So we're starting to get a better understanding of what these lines mean. And let's go back and recap this and just look at these values. We know that this right here is neither accelerating or decelerating. Right here, it's kind of like a maintenance throttle almost, right? Like right in here as well, right? Kind of right in here. right? We know that these are big braking events, right? Doom, 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 big braking event, right? Look at that in between. Isn't that interesting? What is this, guys? What the heck is this? Let's put the cursor on here. Look at this. Isn't this weird? Really, really, really weird. Doesn't look right, right? It's got two things right here. What the heck is this? What the heck is this? We're going to actually zoom in on this. This is the next thing I want you to see. Again, we're looking into the lines, right? We're looking within these squiggly lines, and we're trying to interpret and make some accurate, not assumptions, we're trying to say, what the heck is this and how do I get better, right? Eric, this is great stuff. What the hell are you telling me this for? Well, here's what's going on. Here's what you can see this, and a lot of new drivers have this. So we can see this is our feet. We know that this is negative. We know that this is braking. We're braking, we're not braking. We're braking again, we're not braking. Right? We're in the brake zone. We're braking, we're not braking, we're braking. Right? Our hands are relatively straight. Right? Makes sense? In the brake zone. Right? I'm going to suggest to you that this is one of two things, and video would confirm this. Actually, I'm not going to suggest to you anything. What do you think that is? What do you think that is? Come on. I'm here to teach. I'm not here to tell you and analyze your data. You learn when you think, especially with data. Well, if you said traffic, man, that's a great example for just about everything. We would need videotape to confirm that, or great memory. You would need to say, well, I remember on my really good lap, there was this knucklehead dude in front of me in the brake zone. And maybe you have a great memory and you know. I don't know. We can't confirm that just for the data. What we do know is that we're braking and we're off the brakes to next to almost nothing, and we go back to brakes. That could be a downshift, right? That's what that would look like. I'm going to suggest to you that that's probably what that is. Either a combination of that, and this is a gross misrepresentation or gross representation of that, or there's traffic in there. If it was traffic in there, usually doesn't look like that, but I want you to see this. Ideally, this bad boy is looking like this. Down, using all that brake, and we're coming up. Because this part right here, the tires aren't working, right? We literally went into the brake zone, and for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what reason, we broke, then we came off the brake during this area on the track. And we said from here to here, we were efficient. And then from here to here, for whatever reason, we were not efficient, right? Bad, this is bad. And then we went back to brakes. We need to see that. See the relationships here? Here, up, here, down. In the biggest braking zone on the track. What that should tell you is there's more time in the brake zone, and that 38.2 right there, I don't know if you can see that, could be a lot faster. And in this case, I bet you that's every bit of half a second honest, and probably more like, ready for this? It's probably even like almost a second. I would go to say that there's every bit of 0.7 of a second. That's huge. That puts her in the 137.5 for right here, right? And there's something magical about breaking into the next lower second. You know, there's something magical about running instead of a 38.2 right here, running a 37.999. Man, those are neat goals to have. If you're looking to improve your lap time, use that psychological trick. You're just looking for the next number. So if you're running let's do a value right here. a 30A1, 37.9. Have a goal that's easily obtainable, like a 37.5. And if you're running a 37.4, go for the 36.999, right? Something like that, 9999999. These are really good psychological motivators. Not, I'm going to save 2 seconds. Guys, you don't save 2 seconds. People don't do that. If you're saving 2 seconds, it's because you suck and there's that much opportunity there. And that's what you'll do at first when you start looking at data. But the faster you go, the smaller gains that you have, which is why when you look at Formula One races on TV, they're so darn close. They're measuring hundredths of a second. In data, you measure initial gains in seconds, then half a seconds, then quarter seconds, then tenths, and then sub-tenths. That's going to take you a couple years to get there. It's going to be faster when you get the more you understand data. So, very last thing, recap on the 3 big channels. What do? We learned that these are the only 3 that you need right here. You can tell stories about your feet and your hands and the money channel product of both of those, which is speed. The average speed, the more it's higher, the faster you go, period. We're just trying to increase our average speed everywhere. We're just trying to take that right there and just get it a little higher. We're just trying to take that right here and go, can we make it a little higher? Can we make that a little higher? And make that a little higher. Remember, that's what we're doing. We're doing our average. A little 1 mile an hour here, 1 mile. That's all you're looking for, gang. 1 mile an hour. You want to come down here and you brake, and instead of braking to that right here, can you brake to that right there? Right? And instead of braking to that right here, could it look like this? A little less. See that green underneath here? That's all you're looking for. We're looking to come down here, and instead of lifting right here for whatever reason, can we keep this thing going? And then have a really sharp, steep slope down to this red line, and then get back on the throttle. Maybe you're doing this exact same thing. We're not braking as much. Let me do that one more time. What's a faster lap look like? Maybe came out of that corner just a little bit faster. All right? Maybe we kept this going just a little faster, and we broke about the same point-ish, right? Maybe we're 2 miles an hour faster in there, right? Maybe we got on the brakes a little harder. See how that slope, I'm trying to make it a slope, and we were 2 miles an hour faster, right? And maybe we went through here just a little higher, and we got on the brakes a little more. We went in there 2 miles an hour faster, and we shifted a little faster, right? So it actually looks like this. And we stayed in the throttle, and we were efficient, and we went 1 mile an hour faster. Maybe we did the same exact thing right here for whatever reason, because we're getting the most out of the car right there, so we're actually doing the same thing, right? Coming out of here, quicker shifter, and that quicker shift looks like this, just a little higher. You see this in Daytona a lot. We're actually shifting faster at Daytona, right? All of this area underneath here, the difference, all of this right here in the blue, that's what going faster looks like. Even these little guys. So it's all these little guys. Gang, it is not one corner. It's a bunch of areas. This right here. That's what faster speed looks like right here. And they're just really tiny stuff. All this little thing right here, right, where the red is higher than the green, that's where the speed is. And there's a 2/10 here and 1/10 here and 1 here and 2 here because it's a long straight, and 3 here and 5 here and 8 here and 1 here, and all of a sudden you're 1.2 seconds faster. That's how you go faster. That's how you use data. There you go. I'm Eric Meyer. Thanks for playing. I am here to help instructors learn. I'm here to teach data, entry-level data. I enjoy that. I enjoy growing our sport. I enjoy helping teaching data to instructors. I got a favor for you, if you don't mind. And the favor is, if you want to learn more, here's what Instructor Summit is all about. It's a nonprofit organization that puts on events. Here you go after PRI show. Here we have introduction to suspension. What do changing shocks and sway bars and springs, what does that mean in Ohio with Chris Torres? He's a IMSA prototype crew chief. Here's our big event. Ross Bentley last year drew 100. Big event. This one's in Atlanta with data. Check that out if you're in the Road Atlanta area. Here's another sim event. Here's Anthony in M1 at teaching data. Him and I are going to have a fun time. Here is the flagship event. February, we're expecting 150. Here's Roger Cadell events. Here's more sim. Here's skid pad. You get the idea. That information is in a new Google Calendar, and I'll put a link below in this Instructor Summit calendar. Every time you see something yellow is an opportunity for an instructor to learn or a data event. And as you can see here, this is getting populated pretty much every weekend. These aren't instructor DE days. It's Matt Romanowski doing an event with Roger. And here's another one with Roger at in Cleveland, right? Here is another one with Sims working on setup in Indianapolis. There is a lot in March, as you can see here. Introduction to data in Central Illinois. Here is Roger over here in Palm Beach, Florida. Here is Roger over here in with Ross Bentley, our event, where Roger will be there as well. A lot of big hitters. So there's a larger event and a lot of Roger events. There's one in Dawsonville, Georgia. So check that out. I'll put a link in the bottom. And here's what you could do for me. I would greatly appreciate this, please. This is what I do. It's a nonprofit. It's called Instructor Summit. I teach instructors. I teach people data. My goal is to grow our sport. You could go to this page. You can find information about, here's last year when we did 100+ people in Indianapolis with Ross. There's Ross right there. You could go like this page. You could follow it, maybe even share it. It's growing like a weed. I'd appreciate it. There's a lot of links and resources on here. If you're an instructor that wants to learn, this is for you. I'm Eric Meyer. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. If you want to learn, get a hold of me. If you want free data analysis, call somebody else. You guys are the best. We'll talk to you soon. Awesome. We'll put this in the outtakes. Hey, Tim. Hey, puppy.